If you have a job and you live in the UK, you will have to pay this horrible thing called income tax. You have to do this because, first off, it's the law, and secondly, it's meant to go towards paying the things that run our country, such as schools, emergency services, roads, and healthcare. Today, I wanted to make a video explaining exactly how it works and how you can calculate how much you pay, because unfortunately, the government make it very hard to understand. Let's get into it. Okay, so to start things off, I guess let's talk about the period in which your income tax is actually calculated. Now, if you were to ask most people that are either from a different country or somebody that doesn't know too much about this topic, they would usually assume that it would be from January to December, which is pretty logical. Well, unfortunately, the UK, just like most other things, like to make things confusing, and sometime back in the 1800s, someone decided it would be a good idea that our financial year would run from the start of April to the end of March. This means that any income that you earn between these dates may be liable for income tax. Now, when it comes to how much you have to pay, they then decided to create a tax band system, which is equally, if not more confusing, and this system consists of 4 different rates. You have your personal allowance, the basic rate, the higher rate, and finally the additional rate. So let's start off with the personal allowance. Basically, this is a tax threshold that you're entitled to where you can earn money without paying any tax at all. At the time of recording this video, the threshold currently stands at £12,570. So for example, if your total income for the given tax year is, let's say, £10,000, you will not actually have to pay any income tax as you will be below that threshold. Now, let's say you were to earn more than that £12,570 threshold, the remaining money of that would then move into what is called the basic rate band, which is probably going to be what most people watching this video will be in. Yes, you will still get your personal allowance for the first £12,570 of your income, but for any income that you make over this threshold up until £50,270 will be taxed at a 20% rate. So basically put, let's say every £1,000 over the personal allowance that you earn, you would have to give £200 of that back to the government. Let me give you an example just to make it super clear. Okay, so let's say your salary was £32,570. For the first £12,570 of that, you would pay 0 tax. This then leaves £20,000 left over, which of course sits inside that basic rate band and would be a taxable income at 20%, and 20% of 20,000 is £4,000, which would be the amount of tax that you had to pay for that given tax year. Oh, one quick thing, for most of us, we don't actually have to manually do this. If you have a job with an employer, they will automatically take this out of your payslip every month using a system called PAYE. However, if you are self-employed or you have additional income on top of your job, you will have to file what is called a self-assessment form. But moving on, if you did find yourself earning more than the £50,270 cap in the basic rate, you would now find yourself in the higher tax rate band, which is taxed at 40% and has a cap of £125,140. There's actually a lot of confusion around this band, with a lot of people assuming that, let's say you earn £100,000 a year, you would have to pay 40% tax on that total amount, which is £40,000 in tax, but this is simply false. Just like the 20% basic rate, you will only have to pay 40% on the amount left over after you have reached the threshold of the tax band that you're currently in. Let's use another quick example to explain this. So this time, let's say your yearly income is £55,270, which puts you in the higher rate band by £5,000. Once again, for the first £12,570 of that, you'll pay no tax at all. The remaining amount up until £50,270 of your salary, you will pay a 20% tax on, and for the final £5,000 that does put you into that higher rate, you will pay a 40% tax on. This means at 20% you'll pay £7,540 in tax, 40% you'll pay £2,000 in tax, and then this gives you a total of £9,540 in income tax that you'll have to pay on your £55,270 salary. Next up, we have the additional rate. This one right here is for the big time earners who will always pay the most tax, but unlike the other 3, there's actually no cap to this one. For this band, anybody that exceeds taxable income of £125,140 will have to pay a 45% tax rate. I'm not going to go into into another example because I think you get the point, but just remember, if you earn over £125,000 roughly, the tax you will be paying won't be the 45% on that entire figure. You will only pay this on the excess left over after you reach that threshold. Hopefully all of that made sense, but before I go, there are a few really important things that I didn't mention during this, as I thought they would confuse the points I was trying to make. And the first one was, anybody earning money in the UK will also have to pay something called national insurance. This is basically another tax which is meant to help state benefits such as illnesses, retirement and unemployment relief. It's currently set at 12% that we have to pay for most people, but it's been recently confirmed that it will be lowered to 10% as of January 2024 by Jeremy Hunt in the latest autumn statement. This also brings me to the next thing, and that's during the same statement, he also announced that he is freezing the tax threshold and not increasing it for the coming tax year in 2024, despite the rise in wages and the cost of goods, meaning that whilst people's wages will go up, they will still be paying more for everything and of course even more tax, which hasn't gone down too well to say the least. And finally, sorry to say this if you've watched this whole video, but if you are in Scotland, this whole thing will be completely different for you as you will pay your tax to the Scottish government. What I have done though, as an apology for keeping you around, is left a link below explaining exactly how that system works. Other than that, I hope you found this video useful and you now understand how the UK tax system works. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you dropped this video a like or even left me a comment down below, and I'll look forward to talking to you in the next one.